When I first proposed to Alia, she accepted my hand with a gentle smile, but she made sure to give me a very candid and realistic warning right from the start. She looked me in the eyes and said plainly, "Think carefully about this before you take the final step. If you marry me, you are taking my mother into your care as well. My mom is entirely on her own, and we are completely inseparable. We package together as a single unit." I didn't hesitate for a second. I loved Alia, and if caring for her mother was part of the commitment, I was more than willing to step up to the plate. I agreed without any second thoughts. A full year flew by in the blink of an eye, and we quickly grew accustomed to our routine as a family of three. As time went on, I realized that Alia was not only deeply attached to her mother emotionally, but both of them shared an enormous passion for traditional relaxation, specifically spending hours in a hot Russian steam bath, banya. It was their ritual, their sanctuary, and their favorite way to unwind. At times, a fleeting thought would sneak into my mind that Alia might actually love her mother more than she loved me. But those subtle insecurities always dissolved quickly. Deep down, I knew Alia truly loved me and would never turn her back on our marriage. In fact, I convinced myself that maintaining a smooth, respectful, and harmonious relationship with my mother-in-law was the best strategy. If the mother was happy, the daughter would love me even more, leaving very little room for unnecessary friction or jealousy in our home. Once a week, without fail, I made a strict point to drive across town to visit my own mother. Ever since my father passed away, she had been living alone in her quiet apartment, refusing to look for another companion. She felt deeply lonely, and my heart constantly ached for her situation. I took it upon myself to play the protector and caregiver, taking care of her groceries, small home repairs, and emotional needs. Yet, despite my constant visits, she had never once come over to stay with us. The main reason was simple. Alia, her mother, and I were living crammed together in my mother-in-law's tiny, modest apartment, and there simply wasn't enough space to host anyone comfortably. Everything changed when we decided to make a bold move for our future, buying a spacious, two-story country house. It was everything we had dreamed of: generous living rooms, multiple sunlit bedrooms, a large yard, and, most importantly, its very own fully equipped private steam bathhouse built right on the property. Immediately after the move, we put my mother-in-law's old apartment on the market and sold it to pay off a substantial portion of our heavy house mortgage. Even after that payment, however, a significant financial burden remained hanging over our heads, and I was eager to throw off that uncomfortable weight once and for all. One evening, after sitting down for a long, heart-to-heart conversation with Alia and her mother, I proposed a new idea. Why don't we bring my mother to live with us permanently? We have more than enough space now. We can sell her apartment too, clear the rest of the mortgage completely, and live without any debts. Both my wife and mother-in-law supported the idea wholeheartedly. The arrangements were made, the sale went through, and the move was a complete success. For the very first time, our entire extended family was living comfortably under one single roof: myself, my wife, my mother-in-law, and my mother. On the very first Saturday following the move, we decided to celebrate this major life milestone in traditional style by firing up the steam bathhouse. At first, my mother was hesitant. She felt self-conscious, repeatedly saying, "Oh, I don't want to intrude or make things uncomfortable for anyone." I put my arm around her shoulder and reassured her with absolute sincerity. "Mom, you are not intruding on anything. We are all one single family now, living together under one roof, and we are going to share all of life's joys and hardships together from now on." To help my mother break the ice and feel completely at ease, my wife took her under her wing and led her into the bathhouse first for the initial steam session. My mother-in-law and I agreed to wait for the second round. While the two ladies were enjoying their relaxing steam session inside, my mother-in-law and I decided not to let the waiting time go to waste. We sat down at the kitchen table, uncorked a bottle of fine cognac, and poured a couple of glasses. As the warmth of the drink settled in, we found ourselves engaged in surprisingly deep and pleasant conversation. We talked about life, family traditions, and eventually drifted onto the subtle topics of relationships and romance. As my mother-in-law spoke about love and companionship, a noticeable, youthful spark lit up in her eyes, a gentle reminder of how long she had lived without a partner and how much she missed having warmth in her life. Before long, the door to the bathhouse opened, and my wife and mother stepped out, rosy-cheeked and relaxed. It was finally our turn. My mother-in-law quickly hurried into the warm, fragrant bathhouse ahead of me to set up. I grabbed a fresh oak leaf broom, Venic, soaked it thoroughly in hot water until the leaves were soft and releasing their natural herbal scent, and stepped inside after her. The intense, soothing heat surrounded us instantly, and combined with the pleasant mood from earlier, my spirits were at an all-time high. "All right, dear mother-in-law, lie down on the bench," I said with a cheerful, energetic smile. "Let me show you how a real master does a proper steam massage. You're going to walk out of here feeling like a completely rejuvenated person." She laughed and settled onto the wooden bench. I took the steamy oak broom and began working methodically, lifting the hot steam from the ceiling and rhythmic whipping it over her back to stimulate circulation. The room filled with the rich aroma of oak, steam, and heat. Between the physical effort, the rising temperature in the room, and the lingering warmth of the cognac we had enjoyed earlier, a dizzying rush began to take over me. Everything around me started to melt into a pleasant, warm, tranquil blur. By the time I finished the full routine, my legs felt heavy and weak. Thoroughly exhausted, yet deeply satisfied, I collapsed onto the lower wooden bench to catch my breath. My mother-in-law turned toward me, a genuine, warm, and deeply appreciative smile on her face. "Thank you so much, my dear son-in-law," she said softly before gathering her towel and stepping out into the cool evening air. I sat there alone in the quiet steam room for a long while, letting my heart rate settle and soaking in the residual heat. A profound sense of accomplishment and peace washed over me as I reflected on everything we had built. We had overcome financial stress, brought our loved ones together under one roof, and established a warm family tradition that brought every single one of us closer than ever before.